Hello, we are students at the University of Oxford and we're here to help you prepare for your Oxbridge interviews. I'm Beth.
I'm Kaysan and I study English and French.
And I'm Zee, and Beth and I both study history and English.
And we're just going to talk you through the whole interview process, from how you prepare to your interview, right through to the interview, and how we felt after our interviews. Nice. So the first question we're going to start off with is, what did you do to prepare for your interviews?
I mean, in my personal statement, I read around a lot of the things that I decided to talk about. So the main bit that I was really interested in was slave narratives and looking at them from a literary and historical perspective. So I tried looking for articles, journals that looked at slave narratives in an interdisciplinary way, because it means that even if you are doing history and English, for example, and you're having one interview on English, one interview on history, if they ask you a question about your personal statement, you're able to give maybe a different approach to the way that some other people would look at it. Yeah.
I feel like I didn't do a lot because I felt like it was quite unpredictable, because they obviously pick your brain apart in the moment, and the bulk of my interview was this unseen poem. But what I did do to help myself is I just made sure that everything that I said in my personal statement, I thought about ways that it could be challenged. And it's an example of using AI responsibly. I used ChatGPT to just come up with a list of challenges that I could give for my personal statements, so that I could really actually think through what they could ask me and think about how I could defend myself there.
Yeah, I think the personal statement, that's really important. I had a list of everything on my personal statement and then mind mapped what I could talk about around that and what I could bring into it. I think the same with the written work as well. Just go over that, make sure you have got something to say about all the weaker parts in it, because they might challenge those.
Yeah, just make sure you're very familiar with what you wrote in the written work.
Yeah, and maybe think about ways that you want to change your argument. Think, maybe this argument could have been better if I did X, Y, Z. So
you can show your development.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then what did you do on the day of your interview to prepare for it?
I didn't do anything. I think it's really important on the day of the interview, especially if you've got a morning interview, to just take the whole morning off and to just take care of yourself, essentially. So honestly, just hydrate and do a little bit of self-care. Definitely do that the night before. But the thing is with the interviews, you're never going to know what they're going to ask you. So there's no definitive way to prepare. And if you do spend quite a while on the morning going through stuff, then you're at risk of just almost frying your brain before the interview even starts. So I just think I didn't do anything day off.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that pretty unintentionally. On the day, I got my interview date wrong. I thought that my interview was on a Tuesday, for example, and it was actually on a Monday. And 10 minutes before, they'd sent me the poem, the unseen poem for the English interview. I was like, but my interview isn't today. What's going on? But it was that day. And so I had literally 10 minutes to prepare myself and then do it. And weirdly enough, I think that's the best way to do it, because I hadn't stressed myself that morning.
Exactly.
I'd gone into it completely fresh. And I think over preparing can actually shoot you in the foot. The most that I would do if I'd had the time was read over my personal statement. But by this point, you know your personal statement so well, the back of your hand. So just like Kaysan said, just take a break that morning.
I got told a bit of advice, which is really important. I think you need to treat the interview as less of a test and more of a conversation between you and several academics who know more than you, but you need to show that you want to gain their knowledge. You need to be curious and you need to be interested in what they have to say. You should never take one clear stance in the interview, and you should never double down on it. That's what I found. You should never double down on one stance, and you should always be flexible to different interpretation, especially in humanities. But that's what I found was really important as well.
Yeah, because the whole interview is a practice tutorial, isn't it? So they want to see how you learn and how teachable you are as well.
And it's God knows in the tutorials now, I do not have a clue what's happening half the time. So
sometimes you just have to sit there and say, I'm sorry, what?
But that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, our next question is, how was the actual interview experience? How did you feel during it?
I loved it. Hopefully, if you're applying to a subject that you will like talking about your subject. And I found this especially for my English interview. They asked me questions about things that I liked, and they asked me, for example, so what are you reading at the moment, and like why do you find it interesting? So I just got to talk for like 10 minutes about like Hardy's poetry, for example, and they want you to do well. Like they're not trying to trick you. So hopefully it should just be like a really good conversation.
That's a really good point. Make sure you know what you're reading then, because that might be the first
No, for that question, I started talking about this book that I read in like 2021, and then they were asking me how I felt about it, and then I was like, well, I think this happens in it, but excuse me if I'm wrong, and it was like the most basic plot point of the book,
But that's okay, because I just want to know what you think, really, about it, so.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know about you, but mine was scary. My history one, I was terrified.
I think my French one was scary. I think if you go into it expecting like horror, you're just setting yourself up for failure. I think you just need to, again, like I said before, treat it as a conversation and just be humble during the conversation. Be humble in your lack of knowledge.
That's really important, actually. Yeah. And then unseen work. Did they give you any in your different interviews, and how did you approach it?
I got 2 pieces unseen. I got one for French and I got one for English. So both pieces of poetry.
I didn't have any unseen for history. It was literally just a conversation about my written work. That's another thing. You can't preempt what they're going to ask you. Like, I had no idea that they were only going to ask me about my written work, but they did. And for English, I got an unseen poem as well. And you get 10 minutes before the interview to analyse it. So it's not just on the spot, like you do get time to prepare it. And 10 minutes is a lot more time than you think it is. Like, you'll be able to pick up a lot in 10 minutes. And I found it really interesting, because in the interview, they will guide you towards the right answer, or if I've got maybe an interesting interpretation, they will help me onto the right track. So I think it's nothing to stress about. It's a poem. Do what you do in GCSE and A levels and just try your best.
Yeah, and I think you can bring the interdisciplinarity into that as well, because my interviewer was kind of asking me questions about the history, and it was 20th century Ireland, and I knew nothing about all the major political things going on in Ireland then, which I should have known about, because apparently they were common knowledge. So I just kind of waffled a little bit. But if you can bring the interdisciplinarity in, I think that's really good.
Yeah.
It was a bit different for us with joint schools, wasn't it? But I think for straight English, you normally have one interview on just the written, just the unseen work, and then one on your personal statement.
I only had 2 interviews. One was just French and one was English, but then the English one was just kind of like a mix of unseen and personal statement. And then when I didn't get another interview, I was like, they don't want me.
No, don't worry, that's not the case.
Don't worry about that.
I think it's really important not to use AI in your written work as well. Say that. Make sure it's all your own thinking.
Because they will quiz you on it, and they will ask, like, especially if they suspect it's AI, because it is quite easy to see when something is AI. They will ask you about how you came to that logic, and you won't be able to argue it if you didn't write it yourself.
Also, you're having a sustained conversation about a piece of work, and you want it to all be your own thinking, because otherwise it's really hard to explain why you think AI came up with some, or even not even just AI, like I don't know, an analysis website, like because it's really hard to like pick a website's brain and understand why they came to a conclusion. So just, it's easier if it's your own thinking, like, and it will help you in the long run.
Yeah, the analysis can be very surface level from a website. It can be this metaphor means this, whereas you need to have a bigger picture of the whole poem.
Yeah.
And then how did you feel after your interviews, after it had all calmed down, you were there, you'd done the application process? How did you feel?
I felt good. It was a relief to actually finish the application process, because God knows it's brutal. But it's so worth it, do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's intense, but it's not meant to like absolutely crush you.
Yeah.
We went through it. The second years before us went through it. The third years did it as well. Like, you will survive it.
I think the only problem is like when the application process happens, you've also got November marks, and then you've also got entrance exams on top of that, and then you've also got kind of like, you've got to write your personal statement, and then you've also got like, because I was doing an EPQ, I had to like do all my EPQ research, and honestly I felt like a little bit like I was going to like go actually insane for a while, but that is completely normal and it's okay.
I found it rewarding. I don't know about you, but I found the whole process really stretching, and I made up my mind after the interview that even if I didn't get in, that it was worthwhile.
I was the exact same.
Yeah.
I was sorry. Like after my interviews, I was like, oh, do you know what? At least I did it. Like at least I got through it. I showed myself that I can.
At least I can say that I tried my hardest.
100%. It's so worth it. So
and honestly, like, even if you don't get in, and even if you think you won't get in, Oxford's not the be-all and end-all to any stretch of the imagination. It's a good uni, yes. It's like traditionally seen as great, and it is a really good place to study, and you will have really interesting sort of academic experiences here, but it's not the be-all and end-all. If you don't get in, there are so many great unis across the country, so do not worry about that.
Yeah. Although having said it, it is quite cool being here.
Yeah, it is.
We're having a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, what are your absolute top tips for students preparing for their interviews? And is there anything that you did that really helped you, or any help that you received?
It's a bit random, and you have to check your department's website, but for history especially, there were like free lectures, and English does them as well. There are free lectures that you can just watch, and it kind of gets you into the swing of like thinking about a certain topic. And then after those lectures, I would just go like talk to my mum about it.
Yes,
talk to people about your subject. Like I had a friend who was also applying to Oxford, and we would like do interview questions with each other, or just talk about our personal statements to each other. And the whole point is to have a fluency about your ideas. So like talking to people as much as possible is really useful.
Definitely, yeah. I think in English, I've done that a lot because of book groups, class discussions, but history, I was not used to talking to people about it. So I just practice, I'd explain topics to my mum, to my siblings, to my cats.
Yeah.
To anyone who would listen. But also, don't worry if you're not the best at talking, because it's part of a much larger picture that they're looking at.
Yeah.
They're looking at the written work, the test if you do a test, your personal statement, your predicted grades, your school reports, your teacher references, all of that stuff all together. And the interview is just one piece in a much larger picture.
Sure.
So
I think what I did was I just kind of like really immersed myself in like the A levels that I was transferring over to my degree, and I remember in my personal statement I talked a lot about 12th night because that was the A-level text I was studying at the time, and I was talking about kind of like the way in which it presented gender as fluid, and then I said it had like kind of like queer aspects because I was talking about Virginia Woolf as well, and I think a really interesting thing that I did was I just really immersed myself in 12th night as revision. So in my interview, they threw a bit of a curveball and they told me that I was queer baiting for putting that in my personal statement. But because I'd read so much criticism around 12th night, I could actually defend my perspective and talk about kind of like just interesting things like meta theatricality, and I think it's really important to, whichever text you put in your personal statement, just really invest yourself in them. And you don't have to read loads and loads of criticism. Just read like one piece of criticism that's related to the point you're arguing, and don't even read it all, read like a little bit of it and just find one quote that you really like. And you're not going to have to rehearse the quote in the interview, but if you kind of like commit yourself to that idea, then you can defend yourself a lot better, I think.
I think it's better to know stuff really well than to have read loads but not remember.
Yeah, exactly. It's better to know little but to know it in a lot of detail, because at Oxford they care a lot more about depth of knowledge and interest than for example, they don't care if you've not read Pride and Prejudice, or they don't care if you've not read Middlemarch. You'll be fine just sticking to your niche and just like really investing yourself in it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, good luck for your interviews. I hope this is really helpful, and I hope they go super well.
Good luck.
Good luck.